And welcome back to another amazing episode. So excited. I know you guys are probably sick and tired of hearing me say it every week, but I really find the best guests. And usually it's because I travel in such amazing circles with influential people. And thanks to my girlfriend Renee, as well as my other girlfriend, Donna Drake, I have today's guest with us, Miss Susan Caldwell with Lunchbox Heroes. And I know, Susan, you're not going to talk about yourself. So I'm going to have to pull out the information. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you and I have been going back and forth. So let's start with, first of all, I love Lunchbox Heroes, but we're going to dive into that. I want everybody to get an idea of who you are, because you're not a startup company looking for some exposure to get onto radio. You have an amazing backstory of unbelievable success. And of course, we love to highlight women, women in empowerment, women in business that have been there, and that you can take those lessons and share them with our audience. So tell us a little bit about who you are and where you came from.
Yeah, and thanks for having me today. I'm so excited to be here with you. So a little bit about my background. Back in 2008, probably the worst possible time to open a business other than COVID, was I started a small kids cooking company, and people thought I had lost my mind. They're like, this is the worst possible time to start. We were going through a recession. And I just had this faith and belief in myself and this concept. So I started, before I even opened my first studio, I started teaching cooking classes at my house, and I would have to kick my family out every weekend. And I would have strangers in my house. We were hosting birthday parties and cooking classes and kids' night outs. It was really just an amazing time until my family said, Susan, Mom, we have to get you in a commercial spot. So we opened our first location in 2009. It was called Little Chef at the time. Went through a rebranding in 2014, but this company just went gangbusters out the gate. We just did a lot of things right. Very hard worker, one of those, I'm a serial entrepreneur is what I like to call myself. So many great ideas. And, the company just grew. We went from one location to 4 locations in just a matter of years, just a few years that I corporately and independently owned myself. Then in 2015, I started franchising the company. So at this point, it was called Flower Power Kids Cooking Studios. And I grew that company to 20 locations in 8 states. And I sold the company to a private equity firm in 2022. And really, since then, I'm like, okay, I love what I do. I'm so passionate about it. And, what can I do now to bring the same exact message to even more people that, aren't necessarily inside of a cooking studio? And so I'm really excited about what we're doing and educating, people about where food comes from and all that great stuff.
So I'm going to stop you right there for just a minute. So first of all, that's amazing. But as an entrepreneur and as somebody who's growing and scaling their business, what was that pivotal point, that moment where you said, I'm willing to sell my baby? Right? You sold, and they're usually, most people say it's money, but what was that turning point for you where you said, I'm growing? You could have grown to maybe 100 locations. What made you stop at that point and redirect?
That's a great question. And I think there were a number of reasons. Some of it just had to do with the fact that I have a disabled young adult. He's now 19. He has severe autism. His name's Cameron. He's such great. I also have an older daughter. But I found that his needs were really pulling on me as he got into adulthood. And I really wanted to be present for him as he, faces new challenges as an adult, to make his way in the world and to be his advocate and really help other people in the special needs community also outside of the Flower Power. I'm a big avid volunteer, helping a lot of different organizations. So I think that was the kind of the pivotal moment for me. It was a tough choice, right? I mean, I could have grown the company to 50, 100 locations, but I think as a mom, you always have that hard decision sometimes where you have to decide, is it family or is it business? And I had reached that point and I had to make that choice. But the great thing was, even as I sold the business, I had all these other great ideas of, okay, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of something bigger that I can do, bigger that I can create, and even more people that I can reach.
What lesson do you think you learned from that business that you are now taking into your new business?
Oh gosh, I would have to say is that anything is possible. I think a lot of people thought I had lost my mind. My parents were like, Susan, you're going to lose everything. What are you doing? And, I have a master's in hospitality management. And so that really plays into when you own a business that's catering birthday parties and doing a lot of other things. But I think it's just, you can't give up. Your dreams are your dreams. And if there is a passion there, there's a will and a way to make it happen. And surround yourself with a lot of very positive people that support your mission and your dreams.
When we're talking about women entrepreneurs, do you find that I don't want to use the word relied, but do you feel like you had more energy and connection to other female entrepreneurs as you were growing? Or did you find that in your mission along the way, it was still very male dominated in that cooking space?
Oh God. Well, I would say, and for this particular business, because it's cooking, we had a lot of female franchise owners. I only had a couple of males. And so for my world, I was surrounded by a lot of females. And so I think outside of that, I'm part of a networking for women group here. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I found myself surrounded with a lot of female role models and female people that were looking for me to offer them advice and to bounce ideas off of back and forth. So I would say it was more female driven in my world of growing the company than it was male driven.
I love it. So now we know that you have started a new adventure, but it's
Yes.
still in an alignment with cooking. So we still can't get the cooking, we can't deviate from the cooking. Tell us a little bit about how Lunchbox Heroes was created.
Yes. So Lunchbox Heroes was created pretty much right after I sold Flower Power. But I do think the idea was always there because some of the things that I really wanted to implement at Flower Power, and you just can't sometimes when you're running a very successful entrepreneurial company with a lot of franchisees, they come first. And it was always, okay, what's the issue of today? What are we going to do? What kind of motivational thing are you going to do? So it became difficult sometimes for me to be able to do some of those things. So a lot of the ideas I have for Lunchbox Heroes, I've been thinking about for a very long time. Lunchbox Heroes is really designed to reconnect people with food and understanding where food comes from. And it's a lot about food storytelling. We all have stories that are surrounded by food and memories. One of my greatest memories I can remember is my dad, who passed in 2018. He always made a pound cake for someone passed away, someone was sick. Boy, he was there with his pound cake. And so every time now I make his pound cake, it just floods back all those memories of childhood for me. And that's one of many stories. And so many people we've talked to, we found that a lot of people don't understand where their food comes from. We've also found that a lot of people want to go through the drive-through. People are losing touch a lot with where their food is coming from. They're relying on corporations to cook their meals, and corporations cook very differently than we do with scratch made food in our own kitchens. And so my passion is really educating people about food in a fun environment, interactive kind of way. So it's very much bouncing off of the success I created at Flower Power. So I'm really excited to be able to launch a series filled with all these great stories. We have filmed a couple of pilot episodes where we were out campfire cooking. We started a fire. We caught the fish in the lake. We brought them back. We cooked them over the open fire. We had a wilderness expert who came in and taught us what berries can you eat in the forest. We went foraging for berries. And these are all things that I think families can benefit from understanding. It's not about always just sitting in your kitchen and cooking. There's a whole world out there that we can explore together and learn more about food, and getting people spending time together, cooking together, making those memories together is what it's all about. So we're so excited about bringing this series to life.
I love it. Once again, just reminding everybody, we are speaking with Susan Caldwell with Lunchbox Heroes. So the funny story is that I own a restaurant. And our restaurant is called The Farmhouse, which is actually a bed and breakfast. So talking to you, it's almost personal. I'm having a personal experience with you right now. And that's because we do talk about food. And one of the things that we've noticed where I am is fast food, high processed food, frozen food. And, we don't use any of that. Like, that's just not who we are. So I think the misnomer is that people can't afford to shop healthy and they don't have the time. So let's jump into that right now. What lessons are you teaching to families about the quality of their food, what food is doing to their bodies, right? I mean, look at how much illness.
Right.
That's all. I've had people on my show, they talk about food illness and what our food does to our body. So how are you addressing those concerns, and what message are you sending?
Yes, that's a great question. We see kids in our studio or in our studio when I had Flower Power that would come in and say, "Oh, we went to McDonald's last night," and I would cringe. I'm like, "Where did you get there?" Right? And we would just talk about, "Hey, what's in that food? Let's look it up. Let's educate ourselves." But probably my biggest passion, something that I'm so passionate about, is homegrown food. And, we created raised garden beds in my backyard at home. And, as a family, we're out there growing the tomatoes, we're out there growing the basil, we're out there doing all of those things. And that's really the best way I think families can educate and teach their children, and do it an activity as a family that teaches them so much. It starts as a seed, grows into this beautiful plant. And those are the things. It doesn't get any fresher, it doesn't get any better than being able to go in your backyard. It doesn't take much money to do this. You can just go get some cheap pots at the dollar store, get some soil, put it in, put a plant in there, and it continues to feed and feed and feed people. Not only does it feed and nourish their bodies, but it feeds and nourishes their brains and their community with their family and all of those great things. So that's what I'm really passionate about, is educating people about what can you do at home that's healthy for you, that doesn't cost a lot of money. And then on the flip side of that, our series is a lot about talking to the farmer, meeting the farmer, helping them understand how food is grown, because a lot of people just don't understand that. I remember one of my craziest stories that I had when I had my studios was, we would have a bottle of ketchup and I would ask the kids, "Hey, where does this ketchup come from?" And they would be like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "How can you not know that tomatoes make ketchup?" And they just did not know that information. It was scary. It was like an awakening moment for me that, okay, we really have to get this message out there in a way that can educate other people. And you can't always blame the parents. Sometimes the parents, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of time to be able to spend the time with their families. But then let us do it. Let us help spread the positive message with the farmers and everything else. And that's what I get so passionate, so excited about with Lunchbox Heroes, is being able to spread our message, with the world.
One of the things I want to touch on is you've created a series. And for those that are listening, this is not, hey, I created a business. This is, I want to bring my knowledge and experience to the masses. So I've created a pilot program and a TV show. So what is currently some of the challenges that you're facing with trying to create that launch that maybe we could help you with?
Yeah, so we're definitely looking for partnerships with businesses that we may be able to help showcase their business, using some of their products on our series, being able to integrate some special guests on our series in exchange for some sponsorship of our series. So it's a win-win for, a lot of different companies. And we don't have so many opportunities for that. We've got a limited opportunity, for high quality, cookwares, service companies, those kinds of things that we feel like would be a mutually beneficial relationship between us and them, to be able to help launch our show financially, and then be able to also showcase what they're doing to make a positive impact in the community and in the food world.
And it's funny because when you hear, hey, we're creating this pilot and it's talking about food, what I think people are missing is it's the pots and pans that you're using, the stove that you're cooking on, the pantry ware. It could be everything related to food service would potentially be a good partner for you. And I think what happens is that it becomes almost shared responsibility. It's like anything else. So if, we have listeners that, manufacture or design or own, products that are related to the food service industry, I think they would be a perfect fit. And
Yes.
then, the other thing too, you're talking about campfires and going to the farmers. Are you specifically doing these shows in your North Carolina region, or are you looking to go across the United States into different pockets, because there's different demographics in different areas of the US?
Yes, I think we're willing to travel and take on the world. There's a whole world out there to explore. North Carolina is fantastic. We grow a lot of great produce here that, gets shipped lots of great places. Eastern North Carolina is pretty much all agriculture, some medical stuff that going on there. But North Carolina is very much a foodie kind of state, especially the eastern part. But we're also willing to go anywhere. There's so many great places that we can find how people are growing their own farm and share that positive message with anyone. So, we're definitely willing to travel. We've got a production team ready to go that's willing to travel. So, we're just so excited.
Now, it sounds like this show, which is different than your original, is that with this show, you're highlighting and more, as you're using the word storytelling, and more on-site, hands-on showing people. Now, are you planning on still having an engagement with children where you maybe bring them along or they come along with you? Or is the show geared more towards showing kids, look, life doesn't have to be about, bad burgers and high sodium diet?
Right, for sure. And in our pilot, I have a co-host, and then we had 3 teens between the ages of 13 and 18 that are actually on the series also with us. So it's not just the Susan show. It's not just Susan showing you everything. It's about learning from their peers, learning from kids as well. And we found that was great because they all have different personalities. They all have different passions, and being able to showcase a lot of those passions is important. We're also going to highlight a hero of the month, and our plan is to also hopefully have this hero child on our show, and people can nominate someone who's making a positive impact in their community. And we will select one a month to hopefully be able to appear on this series, as well as a couple of other offshoots of this business, to help celebrate the great things that kids are doing in their community to make a difference and a positive impact.
I'm thinking about alignments for you too. And there's so many people out there right now, especially online, with health and wellness. Have you partnered with any health and wellness companies to help get your message across as well?
We have not at this point, but we definitely have some plans to reach out to those. We have not at that point, but that would be a great way for us to be able to help align our business with theirs and bring some awareness to all of us.
I think there's so many organizations out there that focus on clean eating and natural foods that I think together, like a partnership like that could just be fantastic. I'm just thinking,
Yes.
how we work, our brains don't shut down for a minute.
Right.
But I'm just thinking about the collaborations for you and how many people would love to highlight their business as a dietitian or a nutritionist on a show like yours. Right?
Yes, and yes, absolutely. And we've already got the distribution. We've signed a deal with Binge, which licenses and distributes content to, some of the larger, like Netflix and some of the other options. I know Binge has already been reached out to potentially turn our series into educational DVDs. So I think there's a lot of great ways and a lot of good distribution that we have in front of us with things that we've already been working on to be able to spread the word and get this series distributed.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to participate in helping to spread the awareness about the amazing job that you were doing. So once again, we are speaking with Susan Caldwell, Lunchbox Heroes. Susan, if somebody wants to engage with you, or they would like to learn more about how they can partner with you, or they would love to help you expand and grow or be a partner, how do they contact you?
Yes, great question. So our website is thelunchboxheroes.com. And from that website, there's all kinds of sponsor reels on there. Sponsorship opportunities are laid out there, as well as the pilots that we filmed, some short clips. You can also follow us and learn more about us on all of our socials. There are links on the website to that as well. So we welcome following us on all of our socials and reaching out through the website. All of our contact information is there.
And I know you have so much more of a story to share that we were talking about offline. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to grab you back as a guest again in the near future, where we
Yes.
can speak a little bit about your goals for Q1 and Q2. But for now, that is a wrap for today's show. So once again, I hope you enjoyed listening to Susan's story. Stay tuned. We're getting ready to bring you information on next week's episode.